It is a fact that there's no shortage of conspiracies when it comes to Hurricane Helene and its destructive path. But those stories are for another day. And while the extent of the loss of life and physical damage caused by Helene have yet to be determined, there is one fact that is undisputed in the aftermath of this natural disaster. The mountain folk from East Tennessee and West North Carolina, their spirit is unbreakable. Thank you for tuning in to the Ryan Files. This week we'll be hearing from 5 individuals who have witnessed firsthand the destruction caused by Hurricane Helene in the mountain country of East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. First up is my good friend Lori Lindsay from Hickory, North Carolina. Lori has been volunteering with Winkler's Grove Baptist Church, which, thanks to its location near the Hickory Airport, has become a major hub for disaster relief efforts in the region. We'll also hear from Andrew, a family member of mine who works in public services for the town of Banner Elk, North Carolina, one of the areas hardest hit by the storm. My final interview is with Paul Cole, pastor of the Ridge Church in Roan Mountain, Tennessee, situated right along the Tennessee-North Carolina border. Additionally, we'll feature clips from an interview on Fitz News with Andy Fancher, who went to the damaged region to uncover the real story of what was happening on the ground. And finally, you'll hear segments from the Albarino Analysis, where Timothy Albarino interviews billionaire businessman and pilot Gary Haven. Gary volunteered his time and his helicopter for search and rescue missions in the immediate aftermath of the hurricane. So sit back, listen closely, and take in these stories that America needs to hear.
So the day that Helene hit, I got called into work about 2 o'clock in the morning that morning. There was already some flooding in progress. One of the main routes that kind of connected Banner Elk was already flooding, but we also had a secondary road that was, kind of a lifeline at that point that had a tree fall across it. So, our duty is to serve in a situation like that. So, me and my higher ups, my bosses, we all went in and we died. We done what we could to get, keep it open. And about 10 o'clock, we just hunkered down. There was nothing there. You couldn't do anything. Even at 8 o'clock in the morning, the rain was it was hard.
It's a pleasure to join you, Ryan, and I appreciate what your YouTube channel does, your audience, to listen to the stories that we're going to be talking about today. And just the many blessings that have come out of this catastrophic flooding that took place. About 3 weeks ago, we had a historical catastrophic flooding from Hurricane Helene. Really caught so many people off guard. I don't think people could possibly imagine the amount of rainfall that this area would have from that. We had seen some rain a few days prior to the actual hurricane coming over the Appalachians, but no one was ready for what they were about to experience.
Well, where I live particularly, that day when it hit, it's pretty fierce here, dark, a big storm. We heard trees falling all around us in our neighborhood, but we were spared. Stanley and I were spared. But just up the road immediately in a town called Morganton, which we first lived when we got married, they immediately went underwater. The water systems went down. Water up to roofs, on familiar areas where he'd been so many times, and it was just devastating. And the further you go up 40, Marion, into spruce pine. And then right before Asheville, you have Black Mountain, Swannanoa. They took one of the biggest bruns of the area. Swannanoa is pretty much like Chimney Rock and Lake Lure. It's pretty much wiped out. We had a young lady come to our church actually last week wanting to volunteer with us in our relief efforts. She's from Swannanoa and told us in one community there were 500 houses wiped out just in that one little community.
In Swania, we encountered a man who had lost everything: his car, his 3-bedroom house, the first property he was ever able to call his own, and he was cracking jokes with us. In fact, me and my ride noted that we were thirsty, and he asked us if we wanted water. You know, the only thing this man asked for was mustard. That's Appalachia.
The waters were already coming up, and actually right outside of our shop is a low-lying area. And the road was completely covered in water. We couldn't see the road for hours. And, you know, after everything receded, we got out and started venturing around to see, you know, how bad was it. And as soon as we turned onto, our shop was, you know, in Banner up at the parkway. But as we come out on the main highway coming into town, it's just trees. I mean, there's a one lane that you got to get up on the sidewalk on and just kind of weave your way through. It was, you know, I mean, that was kind of the first thought, and it's like, well, that's a bad area. So if you progressively get a little further, you know, you're getting to all these where the rivers are, and like the park is completely underwater at that point. And so during all this time, we lose communication. You know, higher ups can't get in touch with us. We can't get in touch with their family. And so there's a lot of panic at that moment, because this is one of them things that you always kind of have in the back of your head. May happen, but you're like, it's never going to happen in my lifetime. And it did. So that was definitely an eye-opener for me, how to prepare myself better for a situation like that. But we're really trying to figure out, what do we do next at this point? You know, pretty much all around, because we have no way to talk to each other, tell our families, hey, we're okay, you know. So at this point, we're like, we need to get home.
You know, we have a lot of beautiful creeks and streams, and a lot of people come here to see the beauty of the mountains, especially this time of year. And even just a very small creek, and I'm talking, you know, a couple feet wide, maybe anywhere from a few inches to, you know, a foot deep, became a river, literally going out of its banks across the road, in some cases spreading out hundreds of feet wide. So the amount and volume of the water has really never been seen to date, at least in modern history. There have been some speculation that this was a over 1,000-year type of flooding event.
The devastation is hard, really, Ryan, to explain until you see it. Mud anywhere from 4 to 8 feet high. These people, there's stories of people watching their family members rush off in water and in mud, and there's literally nothing they can do. Whole families, part of families, there were people trapped under their homes with no way to get out, and people watching around knowing they can't get to them. There have been, I don't want to sound too, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but there's bodies everywhere, even in trees. The rescue workers have told us there's bodies still in trees. There's so many accounted for.
It was really, you were kind of in shock, and I would say in awe of the magnitude of the water that we were experiencing. You know, as the water began to rise, at first you were kind of in awe of, you know, like if you had a heavy rain and it started to flood, and the next thing you knew is that it kept on rising. To the point that you found yourself not even feeling safe to go across bridges. The water had exceeded the height of many bridges. We were starting to have landslides. I actually had one at my neighbor's house just a couple houses down that literally blocked us in for a while. It took part of the mountainside, just came down, pushed some of his vehicle sitting in the yard up against his shed. And of course, the power went out. In fact, the outside world, if you will, they could see what was going on, and we really had no clue of the magnitude of this event. And then as we found out, it was horrific, because you had towns like Irwin that were very much devastated.
So we decided we're going to get in the truck together, me and two other coworkers. So we tried to make our way out of town, and we know our normal route is already blocked off from what we're hearing. We hear that there's a landslide on it, and there's gravel in the road, but we didn't realize how bad the gravel was until we got to it. But we tried two different alternate routes. The road was completely washed out in one, and the other one, they told us it was impassable. So at this point, we kind of come together and we say, well, our only option is to walk. But the biggest risk we had with our decision was, in Heber, there's a bridge that goes across this river, the Elk River, and if that bridge is gone, we cannot get home. So, we took the gamble. We knew we had a 50-50 chance at that point. And luckily the bridge was there, but we did meet some people along the way that kind of drove us a little bit further. They said, we can't take you all the way, but we can take you to the next roadblock. And one lady, she's actually a realtor in town, she asked us how our business was, and it was like we couldn't see it because the road was washed out. And but she said, I'm going to take you and show you where I live, just in case you all can't get across that bridge. You can come back here and stay. And so that was really nice of her, to be able to do that. Once we get in the Hebrew, they've got the road cleared at that point, too, at least one lane. And we were just going through these trees to that point. At this point, we're looking at maybe 2 hours that it took us to get from Banner Up to, which on a normal day is about a 15 to 20 minute drive from my house to Banner Up.
Right.
So it was quite the adventure that we had getting through all of that. But we get to eat, and the guy was very gracious enough to take us on to our houses and stuff. But when we got home, our family were just, excited to see us. And we had told, our bosses, like, as soon as we know our families are okay, well, as soon as we know our home's safe, we'll be back.
And I want your viewers to understand, the media gives you a small part of this, because it's the citizens coming together, going in their boots in the ground, having to take side-by-sides, ATVs to get these communities that you normally just can't reach. You just can't drive in there now the way it is. Our church is located right across from the community airport, smaller airport. And since we've been working at our church, helicopters were flying daily. One comes in to pick up a load and the other one's taken off with a load. It has been nonstop with the supplies and everything. We get hot lists every day of what's needed.
We got there, it was amazing what we saw. I landed at Hickory Airport, North Carolina, which a group of civilians formed as the base for private helicopter. They named it Operation Airdrop. And so you had about 50 private helicopters there, all volunteers. And they set up an ops center where they were assigning missions. They set up a GoFundMe for fuel, and they raised over $500,000, which covered all the fuel costs.
That's awesome.
Completely private. And there were initially no military, no government aid. It was all private.
Where we were at, it was in pockets, meaning You had a little event here and there. Some of them were more tragic than others. Obviously, there was loss of life. There have still been people who have not been located yet. And I'm not so sure, being on some of those calls, if we can locate them at this time. I just, when you look at the debris field and the piles and how many things were moved, even miles from their original location, it's hard to fathom that it lliterally was to this scale of things that I've never seen in my lifetime. And like I said earlier, you're talking over 1,000-year event at this point in time. So it was just really, in many ways, it became overwhelming.
Yeah, 11 in Fairview alone reportedly dead. Now, of course, these are not confirmed. These are not coming from official sources, as the official sources are few and far between out there anyway. I mean, this is neighbor, helping neighbor, recovering neighbor, discovering what's left of neighbor.
There are towns beyond Asheville. You hear a lot about Asheville on the news, but what the media doesn't tell you, again, is all the surrounding counties and towns of Asheville. These mountain folk that still have not been reached. There have been one gentleman with a relief effort told our church members that they came in asking for 1,000 body bags because, well, that's what they have anticipated. They've already recovered more dead bodies than what's being told on the news. I don't know why that difference is, but it's been very cumbersome. I do know FEMA is on the ground in some of those areas, but they're handing out applications basically. But these people need basic ways of living.
FEMA was worthless. They were worse than worthless.
So we pretty much took our weekend to get our stuff in order, get our generators going, make sure our freezers and fridges were okay. And during that process, we were going and checking on my wife's family, which we're in Avery County. We had no communication with. We actually ended up having to walk into my in-laws' house. Their road was gone. I mean, by gone, I won't say it's impassable, but what was a road, all the underlayment of that road is gone at that point, and this pavement is just laying down. And so any kind of bigger rocks that wasn't moved during the process of building the road is now being exposed, through this pavement. So it's mind-blowing to see the devastation of it died. So on Saturday we got to the end, and we just got back to the house. It's kind of one of those things, you don't want to be out after dark. You can't see. Some of the roads are missing, some of them are one lane. So we need to get back to the house. So we definitely tried to make sure we were home by dark 50 days. And during all of this time, we're still no communication. So we still haven't gotten in contact with my wife's sister, who lives on the other side of the county pretty much, on Avery County. So we finally decided to go to Johnson City and get some supplies on Sunday. So as we're coming into Johnson City, we're going across Gap Creek, start seeing these cars pulled off on the side of the road. We're like, what are all these people doing? Well, about that time, our phones blow up. So, we come back into service. So luckily, her sister has Starlink. So the first thing she does is dial her number and she hears the voice. And so that was that day's relief, because the goal was, we're going to go to town and then we're going to go try to get the marrying jar. That's it. We ended up borrowing Starlinks from private citizens to get them out in the field to these fire stations, because FEMA was hoarding them.
We have supplied our efforts at the church, and this is nothing that our church has done. We give all the praise to God. We started immediately that Sunday after the Saturday, and it has grown beyond belief. We've had trucks coming in from Indiana, Michigan, 3 transfer trucks from New York. transferred trucks from the coast saying, well, we were supposed to go to this place. We couldn't find the address, but we found you. And it's just, that's not coincidence. And it's just turned into, we've become this big hub. And we have an area set up in Asheville, warehouses, and from there it's distributed and going out to these smaller communities where they do need that help.
There were 50 helicopters and pilots saving people and bringing supplies, and without any FEMA, without any National Guard, and it was really a sight to behold. You'd be so proud of these Americans who took their time and their equipment and met the need. I was really honored to be part of it.
One of the huge blessings, and I really have to say this, when you look at the world today, you see things that aren't looking so good. You see people that seem to be losing their love for their neighbor. They don't seem to care as much, maybe. But I'll tell you what we found is how there are a lot of people who do care, that have, the generosity is unbelievable. We've had groups from Indiana, Texas. We even had a shipment of alfalfa coming from Montana. Louisiana, they brought things up, like generators, and I'm talking, very nice generators, chainsaws, just a lot of the immediate needs that people found themselves in, because there are still to this day people who are not on electricity yet. And what has happened because of the infrastructure, the damage was so broad, and particularly in Upper East Tennessee, in Carter County, which is where I currently live in Rome Mountain, and our church is actually in Avery County in Elk Park, which is just a few miles up the road from us. Because of the ruralness of the area, a lot of your resources went to other major cities and towns. So what we've found is how many neighbors just got out and helped neighbors.
It was the communities, people coming around from all over the world, going in and helping one another. And if I've learned anything, I've learned that mankind, when it comes down to it, we're all the same. There's no right, there's no left, there's no black, there's no white. It's people coming together. And that has touched me in a way, and I hope we can see that going on from here and out. It's been amazing.
After that, things start coming back online. You start seeing a little bit of lights coming through the town, because if they found one wire, it might be hot. So you see maybe the dollar store come on, maybe another convenience store up the road come on. So you start to see a little bit of light come back to these towns. And I have to commend all these guys that are out here doing this, because as far as I know, they're still at it. And they've been going for, what are we on? Almost 2 weeks now? 3 weeks?
18 days, I think. Yeah, 18 days.
Yeah, so I really commend all those guys, because, through all of this, I know they worried about their families too. They had stuff to do at home too, but yet they were still sacrificing all their time, to make sure that our power was coming back on. So I really do commend them on it.
The roads up to the top of the mountain, the new heroes have come in, and it's the good old boys on mud buggies and side-by-sides with chainsaws.
People were using their own equipment, their own saws, and to cut and clear roads. And I'll tell you, it was a great sense of, there's a lot of American spirit left, and we've heard for quite a while just that we haven't been going in a good direction, and even in the midst of a catastrophic storm, you see the good that can come out of it through people, and really how the Lord has just opened people's heart to give in so much that we don't want to turn away donations, but to a degree we have to because we're out of room.
There was a gentleman the first week that loads were being taken up. A gentleman in Asheville on the muddy roads. You couldn't see sidewalks, you couldn't see anything. And standing with an empty 1-gallon water jug and a $10 bill in the other hand, just muddy as he could be, and offering to pay somebody $10 if they would fill his jug. That's how desperate these people had become. And it's severe right now. The weather's very cold now in those mountains. Most people don't have a place to stay. We're trying to get warehouses and things like that for where they can go in and get warm. So the biggest needs right now have obviously been coats, toboggans, boots. They don't need really fancy shoes right now. They need boots because we're still up there. They're trying to muck, the mud and everything. They need particular kind of shovels to muck out the mud and the trees, the cleanup. You've probably seen on the news or things about Chimney Rock and Lake Lure. That's going on all around us. It's not just that area that looks like that. It's like that in so many communities. And up towards Boone and Blowing Rock, I know you've been up that area. They were hurt pretty bad. And up and beyond them in areas called Linville and Banner Elk was hurt very badly. There was a news story on cable news, national news, of a reporter holding a gentleman's hand in a culvert. And he told the reporter, while they could try to get help, of the story. He was on his porch just watching to see. The storm came so quickly that he had to holler at his wife, get out, get out. And she jumped out a back window, and before he could even move, the landslide came in the water and took him away and rushed him down. He ended up in that culvert. And there was a reporter there and grabbed his hand. After some time, I think a day or so, he was still in that culvert holding on. And the reporter grabbed onto his hand and he prayed with him. The reporter was crying even on the news, and they got him out and by helicopter and got him to the local hospital. But he did eventually die. But there's so many stories like that we could tell.
As the days go on, we start seeing helicopters more. And it started outside. I think I really saw them probably Saturday. You saw some. Sunday you really saw a lot. When it comes to Monday, when we went back to work, I saw the first black hawk. So I will say that you did start seeing some government, and there were some Chinook bringing some supplies in. I know Banner Elk, they were completely cut off for 3 days. There was no supplies in or out.
Mm-hmm.
So they did have some helicopters that was flying supplies in on a pretty regular basis. So our first day at work, we're cutting trees. This serious helicopter coming, landing in the big green area, middle of Banner Elk, and you're like, well, this is normal,
The first time we saw the National Guard was probably 5 days after the event, and a couple of helicopters showed up. Now, keep in mind, there's 10,000 people that are isolated, a couple 100,000 people that have no water and no power. So you have this massive event going on, and 2 helicopters show up from the National Guard. And we were told, and remember the senator I was with is a colonel in the National Guard, so I got this really firsthand. The National Guard had no funding available, and the funding was the reason that they showed up so late. One side story, we had a nursing home with 20 people that needed to be evacuated, and 2 of them were in critical condition. And we had a Black Hawk helicopter sitting there on the ground. And we asked them, would you go there because this is an emergency? And they said, it is not our mission to pick up people.
It's been that overwhelming. And so, that has been wonderful to see, is the outpouring of people throughout this country who have just taken it upon themselves, even through some, other church organizations or nonprofits that have come out to help. And so that's been very, very encouraging and uplifting during this time of need in the Appalachian Mountains.
Now, the Samaritan's Purse, on the other hand, which happens to be based in Nashville, is kicking ass.
That's what I heard, yeah.
They've got sites set up for thousands of people. They've got teams in there that are clearing roads and making fresh water because the wells have all been contaminated. So I would donate to Samaritan's Purse, definitely
Yes.
not Red Cross, or to organizations that you know and trust that are on the ground there.
Still a lot of help that needs to be made. There was a load, a big line of National Guardsmen going up today. We saw them. We haven't seen that. They were escorted by police. So they were lined up at the first of it. A lot of National Guard loaded and ready to go. And our church was going up with transfer trucks of supplies and everything going in. And they stopped and spoke to them. Well, are you guys ready to go? He said, we've got everything we need ready to go. He said, why aren't you going in? We haven't been given the word. Yeah. So that's how it's been. It's been, it's been very, very difficult. I don't know what else I can say.
And I don't expect anything from the government except confiscation of what we do personally or bottlenecking everything.
So, our focus was to try to get to some of these roads that hadn't been cut yet. So, our first couple of days were just clearing access so some people could get out. Right. And luckily there was a lot of people on the ground that would carry water into these people and carrying supplies in. And, as the week goes on, you start to see that transition of distribution over. And so you're seeing all that, and, our focus is, we got to focus on our infrastructure and try to figure all that out.
Good old boys from the mountains of North Carolina, and I'm telling you, they were kicking ass.
But it's, it becomes a roller coaster and a whirlwind of emotion because you see the devastation day in and day out. And it's like I told one of my friends, I was like, man, I've never been so happy to see the state run. Because it's almost like that break is when you cross there because there's a little bit of, problem, but it's nothing like it is back up in Northville. I know it's hard to say because even Rome Mountain was hit hard and Hampton was hit hard, but it's like, I try not to go there because I really don't want to see it because I see enough of it here. So.
Tell us about some of those people.
Good people, resourceful people, trustworthy people, people who have lost everything and are still willing to give you the shirt off their back.
Have I been tired? I've been extremely tired. And you work 10, 12 hours a day, every day. Some people have been staying there at midnight. You get tired, it's true, but I'll come home and I feel guilty. I have a beautiful home. I don't want for anything. God's been good to me. And I think, I can't sit here. They need.
I have to say my dad, kudos to him because, of course, he's a prepper. So when I get home, my wife's sitting there watching Walt Arnold's and she's watching the news and he's got lights. And I was able to come home to a hot shower with that kind of, you feel guilty for those things in some sense in this situation. But
a lot of the helicopters going out here were private owners, a lot of NASCAR drivers, because, they all live close by in this area.
it's also, be careful too, because in a time like this, you also have to take care of yourself. So you taking care of you.
I would just say as a word of caution to a lot of people, as a pastor, I believe that the number one preparation you need to make is give your life to Jesus Christ. The salvation of Jesus is our biggest preparation we can make for eternity. But as just a person living in a world that has a lot of uncertainty, a lot of crisis, we need to prepare physically. So, I really try to encourage people to not depend upon the government to come in and do things because they may not be able to do it. They may not be available.
And kind of the message here is is never depend on the government to come and help you.
You may have not heard this, but we have had very little government help.
What I've seen is what I've said. People coming together. There's no talk. Nobody wants to talk politics. Nobody wants to talk, one side says this, one side says that. We're just all coming together working to do what these people need. They're our neighbors.
Muslim people, they don't know Adam at this point, but they are giving everything that they've got for this community and see these other people that kind of they attract, but they're there to help. Then you see a leadership come together, and then you see these little people that are like, yeah, I can do this, yeah, I can do this. And it's like there's no set gets in it. There's no, well, I can do this better than you or anything like that. It's just like people are getting things done. It's just like your mindset is, it's like, I got to get this moved, I got to go, and everybody's just working over paint.
It changed even the river beds. So, the river's running to the left where it used to be on the right. I mean, it's just phenomenal to see how much has changed.
I'm going to say something that I don't think the other people are really thinking about. This area really does rely on things. Fall color, big time. Woolly Worm Festival, big time. So I would say, not this year, but maybe next spring come and visit, or next fall, definitely try to make a trip back there. Not to see the devastation or see the rebuild, but come back and look, please, or come back and just see the mountains and it's needed. It's changed, I haven't been there in 14 years. Well, I can tell you, it's definitely changed. River, the whole rivers have changed. I've never seen anything like it before. What used to be vegetation all the way down to the river is just rocket. It kind of looks like something that you could see out west. And it's like, over the years that will change again, but, just come and see. Come and see the mountains and enjoy the attractions that you use to come through and help them out. Because a lot of them are going to be hurt now.
Several in the community have not been able to work because this is a resort area. So if people aren't coming in to look at the leaves and enjoy the seasons, a lot of your employment is on hold. And so we think that in about a month or so, there might be some economic struggle from that.
And even these contractors, like the guys with these excavators, and they don't care about money at this point.
It's amazing how God can rearrange things to bring us back to what's truly important in life.
And they're out there just busting their tail about to open these roads just so emergency personnel get in.
We have strangers coming into our church. We're just here to volunteer. We see what you're doing. What can we do to help?
Obviously, the most important one is just pray for the area and the people. And any chance you get, encourage them. And they really are seeing the beauty out of ashes, so to speak. So a lot of good things going on, even in the midst of this trial that we're currently in.
And our church is going to make this a continuing ministry. We've built a new ministry out of it. We're going to be prepared for the next event, whatever it is. We're going to be ready. We know how to do this now. We know how to do this.
Well, and I tell you, the Appalachian folk, they're something else. They really are. And when it comes in a time of need, they're there for you. And it showed through all this.
From the outside looking in on a story like Helene, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers, body counts, speculation about weather control, political agendas, FEMA budgets, lithium mining rights, or the movements of corporate giants like BlackRock. But you know who's not focused on any of that? The people with boots on the ground. No, they're mourning their losses quietly and pulling up their bootstraps and standing shoulder to shoulder with their neighbors, hacking through trees, mud, and rock in an effort to rebuild all they've lost. There is a quiet strength in the unity that today's guests spoke about. The kind of strength and determination you don't often see anymore. It's powerful, raw, and inspiring. A sharp contrast to the world we live in today, a world trying to constantly divide us over race, politics, religion, whatever it can find. But in the aftermath of Helene, there are people who are choosing unity over division and hope over despair. To those out there who continue to fight through the rubble and rebuild their communities, I simply want to say thank you. In your darkest hour, your light has shined, and it's a beacon for the rest of the world to see. Thanks for tuning in, my friends. Take a second and subscribe to my channel. And if you like the content here at the Ryan Files, give us a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. That means everything. And as always, stop by theryanfiles.com and become an agent. Join our community. It's awesome. Be amazing this week. Do something nice for a total stranger and stay curious out there. And I'll see you right here next week as we kick off year 2 of the Ryan Files.
The Ryan Files.